Hi, this is Mary at Bensell Greenhouse in Toledo, Ohio, and today I want to show you how to create a topiary. So I have a really beautiful ivy hanging basket that's been growing all summer long. It's got a lot, it's really, really long, and so when I see something like this, I immediately think of a topiary because it makes an instant topiary when you have ivy stems that are this long and lush. So if you have ivies in your area, if you're at a garden center or greenhouse and you see some ivies that have been growing, this is a perfect time for you to purchase this plant, bring it in, and start a topiary form. It's really kind of a neat activity to have do later in the fall or even through the winter if you bring your hanging basket inside. So really what I'm showing today isn't necessarily every single detail. Your pot choice is going to be important. Your frames are going to be important. But what I really wanted to show you today is how to make a very classic, a very elegant looking topiary that's not sloppy and messy. I've seen some videos out there where they don't really give you the right detail on how to do this. And it is a process. And if you do it right, it turns out beautifully. So I just wanted you to, we're probably going to zoom in on some of the things that I'm working on, and I'm basically just going to show you how to take your ivy, your stems, and plop them into your pot and start to place them on the form that you have chosen to use in your pot. So we'll get started. Okay, so I have my hanging basket here, and I started to remove the little plastic hanger off of it so that I can get this plant out of the pot, okay? And it's just really, really thick. When we take cuttings and we stick our plants in pots, we take many, many stems. And so what you'll see on this plant is once I get it out of the pot, you'll see it comes out of here really, really nice. And you'll see that there is there's a lot of stems here. Okay, so there is so much to work with, but I don't need all of this, nor do I want it all, because then it just gets too thick, and ivy can be prone to spider mite, it can be prone to mealy, and I want a nice lush topiary, but I don't want to wrap so many branches around it that I can't get in, I can't clean it once in a while and all of that. So this is a really great hanging basket, but unfortunately I'm going to cut away a small portion of it and only use what I need. What's really nice about this is I can place it right back into my hanging basket and grow it on for another project. So what we'll do is I'm going to show you now how I'm going to get inside here, and I'm going to just cut away a nice portion of the plant. I have the first topiary I'm going to work on is going to be this really large heart, and so I'm looking at this plant. I'm looking at maybe 5 to 7 stems that I'll be using in this pot. Not this whole basket right here. So what I've done is I've kind of separated my branches, and one section is flowing to the right and one section is flowing to the left. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in and I'm basically going to just cut this hanging basket in half. So I've cut this basket in half, and it looks to be like maybe I have 7 to 9 stems. And so this is a nice amount right here. So I'm going to kind of take my hand and get all of these stems all kind of lined up so they're not twisted, they're not all tangled, because I'm going to really want to be able to grab each one of these stems to work it into my topiary. So I've already filled my clay pot, which is a traditional pot used in topiaries many, many times. I've also just filled it with a nice amount of soil. I'm going to drop this guy in here. I've kind of measured out the depth, so I'm going to drop my my ivy into this part, and then I'm going to grab some extra soil. I'm going to get this all potted in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the center, and I'm going to stick my heart right down into the center of the pot. So the ivy is kind of supporting that, It will firm up a lot nicer as it grows and the roots take over the inside of this pot. It will keep this stabilized. Okay, and then now what I'm going to do is we're going to come in and do some shots closer up so you can see me as I unwind and wind around this topiary form. So what I have done is I've come in, I stuck my topiary form down inside where all the ivy branches are, and I've kind of pushed them out, so I've got half of them coming out to my right and half of them coming out to my left, and I'm going to work one side first and then the other. And here is where it's going to get really, really crucial. You'll end up with a very, I don't know the word I'm using. It's just very formal looking topiary. So it's not like crisscrossed and branches and everything winding in all different directions. The way we do it is you do it in a very formal fashion. And so you work one stem at a time. And so I'm coming down. It's sticking up. It's about an inch away from the wire that's stuck down inside the pot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin to wind my branches, okay, in a very tight fashion. I'm trying to wind them around at about a 45-degree angle. And I pay close attention to how I wind. This is a very easy process. But if you have a lot of branches, it takes a little bit of time. But I think that most people find this very rewarding, very relaxing. So there's my first stem, and I'm just going to come through. Now what I do is I'm going to grab my other stem, and I am going to follow the exact pattern that I did. This is what is one of the most important steps about these topiaries. Is that the branches get twisted around the frame in the same way. So they're all following each other. And this is where you're going to start to get into some very important details. So I'm going to have to take off a few of these leaves. I am able to just pull some of them off. I need to see what I'm doing. And this will help you to see how this is all playing out. So my branches, as we start, are all getting turned and attached to this frame, all in the same degreed angle, if you can see how it's working. And this is where now what will happen is it will be a very formal, not messy topiary. So I'm just following the flow of each of these branches. And once you start it down here and you get it lined up, it usually flows really, really nicely. So there's stem number 2. I'm going to pull off a few more leaves. What happens with ivy as this topiary ages is these green stems start to turn brown and become a little more woody. And what you will have to do over time is all of the areas that I have trimmed the leaves off down here on the bottom, every once in a while leaves will sprout back up. It's really a nice clean look, and I'll show you at the end how I'm going to clean this all up. But it's a really nice clean look when you just have the very base of your topiary is just the branches, no leaves. So again, I am following the exact branch exactly how it looks. What happens too is when you start doing this, and my branches are going over the tops of leaves, and it looks like I'm smashing things and all of that. What happens is once you water this in about a week's time, all the leaves will rotate out. They'll start looking fuller. They won't be so smashed. You can always come in and pull them out if they are a little bit smashed. But all the leaves will start, and they'll all start turning towards the light. and they'll look like you haven't even, it hasn't been, it's been a while since you actually wired or wrapped the stems around the topiary form. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to just kind of continue to do this off camera until it gets full, and I'll start on the left hand side and I'll come back and let you see what the finished product looks like. Okay, so what I have done is I did 4 stems on my right hand side and twisted them through, and I also came back and did 4 stems on the left. I have taken off all the leaves down at the base down here, and I'm left with a bunch of stems. And so it really is personal preference how you want to do this, but I kind of like to have a nice clean topiary. I think that sometimes things get very, very messy, and topiaries can make you kind of clean things up. So I do like everything kind of cleaned up at the base. I don't always like to have a lot of foliage down around it. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come through and I'm going to cut out some of the stems and clean this all up. I'm going to leave a little bit down here because these branches are very, very tight. But what I will do is I will take out the leaves, some of the leaves, not all of them, but I will take out some of the leaves. And what is nice is if you so choose, you can find another plant that's very similar in growing. You can always add a little something around the edges that might be flat, or something that a plant that you're interested in if you wanted to plant around the pot, if you wanted to do that. I'll probably top dress this with a little extra soil. And then, like I had said earlier in the video, is a lot of times where I have taken or pulled off the leaves, they want to pop right back. And so you'll have to come in and clean this area out. I always like to keep this free of leaves so that you can kind of see the very beginnings of the topiary form as it explodes with the leaves. So I really like how clean it is at the base of the pot. And I always let it settle for a little bit. Everybody wants it to be perfect from the very get-go, but it's a maintenance thing, and it's kind of a, like I said, it's a very relaxing activity to just kind of play around with your topiary forms. And so I'm kind of looking through now, and I see a couple branches. I'll turn this around. These guys are kind of coming out. So I'm going to just trim them away, keep that kind of trimmed up, and just kind of let this guy go for a little bit. In a couple weeks, it's just going to look like a totally different plant. Give it a little fertilizer, and it really makes a beautiful formal plant in your home. Thanks for watching. This is Mary Michon from Bensell Greenhouse.